There are a million ways to get faster and improve your lap times when sim racing, no matter what game you're playing or category of cars you're driving. However, arguably the most important thing that takes the utmost priority is track knowledge. Even if you're an exceptionally talented driver, not knowing the track can be absolutely crippling. It takes time to learn a new track and put up some fast lap times, and honestly, it's not a good feeling when you feel like a complete noob. Now, I've found myself over the years learning tracks quicker and quicker, so I figured I should share some tips with you on how to effectively and quickly learn new tracks. This video will be broken down into 5 major tips: using the racing line, reference points, flow of the track, finding the limit, and finally, practicing. Now, these are all things I personally use and have found very helpful for both learning new tracks and getting faster around a lap. These tips can apply to people of all skill levels, and after watching this video and implementing these tips, you should improve at both of these. Hopefully. So all these categories are going to go in chronological order in terms of where in the process they are. So first, we have the racing line. The racing line is the most important aspect of track knowledge and absolutely the thing you need to get comfortable with first. This is the foundation for fast lap times. Now, for those that might be beginners, the racing line is the ideal path your car should take around a track, which typically means flowing into the corner from the opposite side of the track, pulling close to the apex of the corner, and extending out on exit to put the power down as soon as possible. Now, there are plenty of corners where this ideology might not be the ideal line through it, but we'll get to those later. The racing line extends all the way around the entire track, and it is the fastest and most effective way to get through the lap. Now, in every F1 game, there is an option to turn on a visual racing line to follow, which usually includes braking points, throttle input, and obviously the line through the corner. While this does make things easier, using this all the time is generally not good, as you end up relying on it too much for all that vital information, and you aren't really learning the track. So how do you go from relying on the racing line assist to turning it off? It's simple. Start paying attention. The racing line assist is a tool and a tool only. Hop into a time trial on a track you aren't familiar with or just one you feel slow at and turn on the racing line. Do a couple laps at almost full speed. Don't try to break a world record, but you want an accurate representation of how the car is balanced through each corner. Now, start paying very close attention to where the line takes you and where it tells you to brake and accelerate. I mean, really pay attention. This is a very helpful tool to get you caught up to speed pretty effectively. It will give you all the foundational, general information you need to start getting more familiar with the layout and the flow of the track that you're on. However, there is a fine line here. Don't do too many laps with the racing line. The goal here is to get comfortable, to learn what corner comes next, and to learn the flow from corner to corner. This should only take a few laps. I'm talking very basic knowledge of the track. Now, you might be saying, hey asshole, duh, obviously I can turn the racing line on to learn the track. Yes, that's true, but the sole purpose of these few laps with the line is just to get your bearings. As soon as you have a sense of what's needed on track in terms of braking and the line through each corner, it's time to move to the next tip. Reference points are physical points on the track that you need to know, such as braking points, turn-in points, etc. Now, with the racing line on, it will tell you where to brake and turn into the corner, and for your next few laps, pay close attention to exactly where these points are. For example, braking at the 100 meter board or turning in where the curb begins. These are physical reminders of what you should be doing and how you should be driving. It's important to note that you should only be focusing on points that are unchanging. Using something like a shadow on track for your braking point is a bad idea because as the race goes on, you guessed it, that shadow is going to be in a different spot. There's a reason they have meter boards on the side of the track. Now, obviously every corner is different. Sometimes you aren't braking at an exact meter board, but pay attention to where the racing line is telling you to brake. Over the next few laps, watch these points very closely and make sure to remember them. I find that sometimes saying them out loud helps as well, especially if you find yourself forgetting where they are as you approach the corner. Again, only take a few laps to do this. You don't want to rely too much on the racing line. Now, there's some other points to memorize too, like a turn-in point. Now, for most corners, especially heavy braking zones, it's a bit easier. Brake at the proper mark and slow the car down, and just as the car is slow enough, turn into the corner. Simple. However, some corners are a bit more ambiguous and hard to judge. Now, one method of solving this problem is to, again, find a physical reference point on or close to the track, and once you reach this point, you know when to turn in. You can use the racing line assist to help you find these points as well. However, if you're struggling with that, the best thing to do is to watch the apex. After you brake, shift your focus to the apex of the corner and allow your hand-eye coordination to just do the work for you. More often than not, you'll turn in at the right spot if you're aiming for the apex by watching it as you turn in. The more comfortable you get with this, the less you have to rely on physical markers for a turn-in point, and you can just focus on braking. Now again, do just a few laps with the racing line on, and watch intently for where it tells you to brake, turn in, and put the power down. Around any new track, some corners will feel natural, and some will feel absolutely terrible, but we'll get into how to work on that. For now, just focus on these physical points. Before we get into the next tip, I have something else to add. There are tools you can use to help you get feedback around a lap, like your telemetry, which tracks your throttle, brake, and steering inputs. One program that I recommend for this is Trophi.AI, a software you can run while you drive that has incredibly in-depth live telemetry with recommended inputs that you can try to match. It also has a live AI driving coach that will analyze your telemetry and give you real-time feedback around a lap on where to improve. It is definitely a game changer and worth checking out, so if you use my link down below, you can get 12% off your subscription. But okay, back to the next tip. Now we need to learn how the track flows from corner to corner, and this is mostly to do with the power output when exiting corners. Different tracks have different flows. For example, Silverstone is a track that's very fluid. There aren't many hard braking zones, and ideally you're barely braking around here. Something like Baku is different. Almost every corner is a hard braking zone, so it feels a lot more choppy. There's a certain flow around each track, and that flow is from corner to corner and sector to sector. Let's talk about Silverstone first. A lot of the corners on this track are medium or high speed corners, so the most important thing in terms of lap time is being smooth when transitioning from braking to accelerating. You want nice, smooth, flowing lines through the corners. There are very few corners here where aggressive braking or an aggressive turn-in is necessary. Now let's look at the differences with a track like Baku.
And this is the Baku circuit in Bahrain.
This track is full of harsh braking zones and tight corners, so your emphasis here is light braking and getting on the power as early as possible. Yes, it's still important to be as smooth as possible, but it's not the same here. This track makes you drive more aggressively. There's just a certain flow around the corners that differs from track to track. Now, the most important thing to note here is corner exits and where to position your car. As I mentioned before, the general advice is to take the outside of the corner under braking, turn into the apex, and accelerate out wide. The reason this is done is to use the maximum amount of racetrack possible and to lessen the angle of the corner and make it as short as possible. For hairpin turns or 90-degree corners, this is a pretty foolproof way to approach them. However, when you get into more flowing, medium-speed corners, things are slightly different. The S's at Suzuka are a good example for this. Into the first left-hander, obviously you want to cut close to this inside curb and shorten the corner. However, this is followed by another long right-hander, so naturally you'll pull into the right. But think, you've done a few practice laps, you know that there are two more corners exactly like these two coming shortly. So you need to position your car in the right way. As you pull into this right-hander, you'll hit the apex and naturally start to drift up to the left side of the track. If it was a straight after this corner, that would be fine. But no, it's another left-hander. As you drift left, continue keeping your steering angle to the right in order to move back towards the middle of the track. This is vital for the next corner, as the wider you can make your entry, the easier and faster you can hit the next corner. Pulling into the left now, same thing. You want to shorten that entry to the right, but not just attack the curb right away. Stay out towards the middle for just an extra second, and then you can pull into the corner. The flow from corner to corner is something that will definitely take a few laps to learn, so using the racing line if you're struggling is fine, but again, use it just for a few laps and try again without it. Positioning your car in the right place is incredibly important when trying to get up to speed on a new track. I know each track is different, but remember two things. 1. Shorten the length of the corner. Go outside, inside, outside. 2. If it's a long corner or S's, position your car on exit to give you the ability to shorten the corner. Once you feel like you've gotten mostly up to speed, you've memorized the braking points, know the layout and the flow of the track, know how to position your car, it's time to push the boundaries to find even more lap time. There are two methods of doing this. Method 1 is to start on a slow lap, say 50% speed. Next lap, go up in speed a little bit. Next lap, 75%. Next lap, even faster, and so on until you feel like you're going as fast as you can without spinning or crashing. The other method is to go absolutely balls to the wall as fast as you can and learning the hard way. As dumb as it sounds, I feel like number 2 is the way to go. Start with the harsh braking zones. If you normally start braking at 100 meters, try braking slightly after it and braking as hard as you can. Make a point of it. Try it over and over on the same corner until you feel like you've reached the absolute limit of braking in order to make the corner. Now try that on the other corners. For less harsh braking zones, experiment with different braking points and turn-in points. Try different lines and hitting the apex at different places. Do it until you feel like you've found the right method for you. Finding the limit is all about experimentation. This is the most time-consuming part. Step 1 only takes a few laps, and same with step 2 and 3. Those steps get you as familiar with the track as you can be in about 10 laps time. This stage is about taking the next 10 laps to push the boundaries of each corner and learn where you can get faster. Everyone has different styles of driving, just like how everyone will have a different way of memorizing points around a track. There's no hack to instantly becoming fast. But with those first 3 steps, you can streamline the process of getting as familiar as possible with a new track. But if you want to be as fast as you can, you're going to have to experiment with pushing the boundaries of each corner and pushing the limit of the car. Once you feel like you've found the limit on at least most of the corners, it's time to practice. My way of finding the limit when practicing is by paying attention to my lap times in sets of 5 laps. Say I set a 1:15.8 on lap 1, a 1:15.6 on lap 2, then a 1:15.7, a 1:15.4, and a 1:15.3. These lap times steadily improved, so it's time for another 5 laps. I do 5 laps and 5 laps until I find I'm not improving at all anymore. Once you can do 5 laps within a tenth of each other, chances are you've found your true pace. Now at this point, you can either go back to step 4 to continue experimenting and pushing the limit, and maybe you'll find something that helps you get even faster. Or you could be like me and say, fuck it, that's good enough, and move on. It obviously depends on your level of commitment, but that rule of 5 laps is a great way to practice your technique around a lap and also continue to get more comfortable pushing the limit on a new track. So let's summarize the process now, and say you're on a brand new track. Step 1, turn on the racing line and give yourself 3 or 4 laps to just get comfortable with the track. Memorize the corners and the track layout, and start paying attention to where the line tells you to brake. Step 2, with the racing line on, start solely paying attention to reference points on track. Pick out specific points on track that tell you where to brake and where to turn into corners. Take 3 or 4 laps to memorize these points. Now step 3, with the racing line on or off, take 3 or 4 laps to learn the flow from corner to corner. Try to feel the feedback from the car when positioning in different places, and remember to always position the car in a way that makes the corners shorter. Step 4, racing line off now. Start to push the limit. Take another few laps to experiment at each and every corner with later braking, earlier acceleration, or different lines through the corner. It's okay to spin or crash, it's all part of the process. Finally, step 5, practice. Try the 5-lap method. Pay attention to your times and lap until you aren't improving anymore. All said and done, combining these steps will take you about 20 to 40 laps to start really getting comfortable. And I know that could sound like a lot, but going from not being comfortable at all on a brand new track to pushing yourself as much as you can is gonna take some time. There's no quick hack to do it instantly. Not to mention, in F1, the laps are always under 2 minutes, so we're talking about like an hour of practicing here. Again, these are all things that I've picked up over the years from sim racing across tons of different games, and this is the process that I now use myself. I hope this helps you learn tracks faster, get more confident, and get faster. If you have any questions about this or want some advice, feel free to leave a comment below or send it in my Discord server, which is linked in the description. As always, if you made it this far, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.